Hello everyone, Sarah here. To continue on with the series where um, once again we work with a paper pad that we purchased one day and we just let it set aside. And this whole series is based on the fact of how I feel sometimes when I find a paper pad that I'm very in love with. Like something about it has drawn my attention, and then when it's time to create a card, I get discouraged, and I just feel like I just can't do it, and I get overwhelmed. So I'm just here saying that that's how I feel, and if you feel the same way, excellent. Let's work together on this. And if you have this paper pad, then feel free to tag along and even post or share your link to your posting of what you had created with the exact same card kit. That would be really awesome to see what other people have created. This is purely for fun, so don't feel like you're not as good as other people. It's not the point. The point is to just work with this awesome paper that we purchased and just have fun. Pretty much how I've been doing these series is every card that I create has been looking at the paper pad and being inspired and let my creativity dictate what I will do next. And it's purely just looking at the paper. I do have plans for some of these bigger images, but I'll get to those later. They're very simple cards, and the reason I wanted to hold on to later is because these have our sentiments. So because I'm not using stamps, I need to be careful only in this for this series. Just be careful I don't use up all my sentiments, otherwise I don't have any left. Okay, so that's just the series. If you've been following along, you already know all this, but I do like to repeat it just in case people are coming in watching it out of order. Okay, so I have these pattern papers here, okay, and I really like these little blocks because they have the sentiments, and you can actually create a couple of cards based on just this and a bunch of the pattern paper. So that's what I want to focus on in this card. So I am going to follow this My Favorite Things 352 sketch. I don't have any circles, they're all squares, but it doesn't matter the size or the shape. But we'll follow the same design. So there is the sentiment, there's a big square, and then a long rectangle. So what you want to do is find one, and I've already figured I want to use this Feeling Frosty because it just has some cute elements to it. So what I want to do is find paper, looking at this, that kind of match and look good. So this one could work as the background, and this one, because they both have the green, and I just like that. I just like that style. Here's a nice one, but it's pretty plain, so that alone could be its own card. This one, you got the nice blue sky there. No. And then you do have this one, which is almost identical. So we could use this, but you just have to remember that it's very similar. So you need to bump it up a bit to make it so that it stands out more. But actually, I really like these two styles together. I know they're both very busy, but I kind of like it. So maybe I'll focus on these two. And the reason is because when I see the mittens in this, all the colors kind of match together. I don't know if this will turn out, but I'm not going to shy away now. That is what my mind has been put together. And you know what? Until I do it, I honestly don't know if it's going to be good or not. So what I'm going to do is just cut this sentiment out. This is the one that I am going to use for my card, and then I'm just going to trim off the red here. Okay. Then I'm going to need to cut these pieces out, and I'm just going to quickly calculate what the size is for each of these. Okay, so I've created some rough estimates on how big I want it, and then I will cut these pieces out, trying to follow those dimensions. Okay, so I have cut out all the pieces, and I am going overload on the layers. So pretty much every piece has a layer to it. So I'm just going to quickly start putting these together. I am going to use double-sided tape, and the reason is because I have a feeling that with this many layers, if I use liquid glue, it will, the card might warp. But it's just a theory, and I want to try it out. So in this case, I am going to use the double-sided tape. I'm a little leery with double-sided tape because you don't have any forgiveness when it comes to laying it down. Once it's down, it's pretty much down. You can sometimes lift it, but a lot of times it will tear the paper. So that's why I always tend to use the liquid glue. But that is something you need to practice. I need to practice on, and so let's do this. It's harder on the bigger pieces, like when you're trying to line it up on the base. So that's where I'm going to have my most worries. So each piece does have 1/8 of an inch or 1/16 of an inch border. Each piece. That's the first one. The sentiment, I am going to round the corners a bit so it's not so square. But I will do that in a second, and I'll show you how I do it. This is the banner that goes in the bottom. I really like the holly on it. It's really cute. Don't be afraid of busy patterns, because if you layer them and do different different techniques of making it not so prominent, they can look really nice. You just kind of want to try to stay away from just all busy paper, because then your eye won't know what to look at. That's pretty much what I tend to do. I mean, there are times when people go really crazy with the busy paper and it looks good. So there's no set answer on how to do it. It's just your eyes will tell you right away if it flows or not. And it could be just something that you practice and then you pick up. Oops. See, that's what I was afraid of. See if I can lift this before it's too late. A little bent. And it could be because I didn't cut straight. Let's try that. That's a little bit better. Luckily, I was able to fix that without causing too much damage. It is bent on the back, but you will not see that. Okay. The next piece. See, it's getting harder and harder with each piece. Pretty much what I'm trying to do is make it so that at least these corners all look the same. And if that's the case, then this has to match. That's if everything's cut correctly. Okay, and then the next thing I want to do, so this is going to be how it looks. Kind of like that. And then you have your image, which is going to be right around here. But I just want to kind of round the corners of this, and I don't have any particular way. I'm just going to freehand it. If you have a rounding punch or a die or anything like that, that works too. That's the gist of it. And then I will just tape that down. And then once it's down, I will trim the background to match. And that's easier than trying to round the corners and then glue it on. This will allow you to follow the pattern or the outline of the top layer. So all you have to do is just kind of center it like that. And then you just follow the same kind of doesn't need to be perfect. Of course, there's also no problem if you want to try to fix it. Just don't keep trying to fix it until it's perfect, because you'll most likely cut too much paper away if you constantly constantly pick at it or cut away at it. Okay, so that is pretty much the design, I think. So what we'll do is we'll just tape these down. Once again, I am going to use the double-sided tape just because I want to see what it's like. I have a feeling that when everything is done, it won't warp as much as the liquid glue does. I just noticed, like, after a couple days, my cards kind of have a warp to it, and I do use liquid glue for everything. Or maybe I use too much liquid glue. That could be the... Definitely. I know I go heavy on it, and that could be the problem as well. Now, you didn't have to use this pattern paper as the background. We could have left it white and just put the design on it. That was something I was debating because it looked really nice, even on the white. But I kind of wanted to use up some of this pattern paper. I really like this color. This will be a thicker card because of all these layers. Every layer is matted with this green linen cardstock. Now, green is definitely an interesting choice because we have all this blue, but it actually doesn't seem to be too bad. It seems to be working. Okay, so next, because this is going to be lifted, I do want to put 2 layers of cardstock on both sides. And I do have leftovers. So we'll start off with the bottom piece. And I'll probably just use glue for this one. Because this is just pretty much for holding it together. It's not going to be on the base. I think my main concern is the background having too much. Okay, well, we'll cut that off, and I think we may have to have 2 layers. Yeah. So now we can set that up there, and it doesn't sag that much. So let's do that. Once again, I will use this double-sided tape. Do the same thing here. I'm getting better at ripping this double-sided tape. And right there. Okay. And if you haven't watched the first video, this green cardstock did come from part of the purchase that I did with this pattern paper, and it's from Michael's. And it's just reds and greens cardstock, which I thought was really nice. Okay, so there's that. And then we have this piece right here. We could lift it so it has a little bit of height. I'm going to go ahead and do that because I actually like height, and I don't want to use foam tape right now because we can get away with just lifting it using my scrap paper that I have here. Okay, so let's just glue these together. They're just simple scrap pieces of paper. There's no really measuring for it. You just kind of cut the size so that it doesn't show up out of the perimeter there. And then we'll glue these down. And then I will need to put a little extra on, I believe, on this side. Right about there. Just a little bit. So I can use this little scrap paper here probably. Now if you just had foam tapes, you can definitely use foam tapes so you don't have to do this. There you go. Okay, so that works. And then I can glue this all down. You know what? Let's just stick with the tape. Double-sided tape. Is there better ways of doing this? Probably. Most likely. But I'm just showing you how you can do this with just the bare minimum. So definitely use the tools you have. You're going to make life so much simpler. But don't feel like you need to buy the tools just because you want rounded corners, for example. So unless you think you can use it a lot, you don't need to worry about it. Okay, so there's that. Now what I want to look into is there were some mittens, I think, right here. I was thinking if I can get these embellishments. I wonder if I can do that. I wonder what it would look like. I'm going to obviously cut the red part off the string. I mean, you can use any of these, but I thought these ones match, so I thought I'd give it a try and see if I can use them as an embellishment. Of course, I have to cut the string from the mittens off because there's no way I can cut that brown away without the string just falling apart. It's too thin. Thing is, these are pretty small, so I may not be able to. I feel like you could actually put something here. I know there's your feeling frosty of your mittens, and it's almost like one of these snowmen can kind of just fit in there. Well, let's see what it looks like if I cut the snowman out. Okay. See, that's kind of cute. And then maybe we can put the mittens on there. So I think that's what I'll do. I think it's kind of cute. So we'll just glue that down. Ideally, I would probably use foam tape to prop it up just because it helps separate it from the background. And then we'll just put these little mittens here, kind of because I want to block off that brown and because it matches the sentiment. Now we could also, actually it looked better when it was, oops. Is there anything else we can add? There are bows and stuff. I mean, we could try putting the bow on, see what it looks like. See? You can add a little bow there. Or you can add a bow here so that it covers the scarf, right? And that's kind of cute too. It all depends on what you want. Like, I think it looks really sharp there because it almost fits perfectly, but I like his green scarf, so I kind of don't want to cover it. And I'm going to set it there, and I'm just going to lift it up a tiny bit. Not using glue dots. I'm going to use the paper. I'm going to behave. But this is going to be a little bit challenging because I have to get it pretty thin. just to give it a very subtle height difference. Because I want to play with my shadows. I want the light, the shadow, to create the separation. And it's very similar to how the shadows happen there. There you go. And see how that shadow, you can tell that's lifted a little bit. And it's so subtle, but it's there. Once again, you could use a lot of embellishments on this. You could add glossy accents to all the lettering here so that the lettering pops up. You can add shimmer pens to the snowflakes or the cuffs of mittens and the scarf. You can add nouveau drops to the berries. You can add embellishments of enamel dots or Studia Cadia. They have amazing embellishments that you can use to increase the look of it. But this on its own is the base and it looks pretty good. In my opinion, I'm very happy with it. I'm shocked that I was able to get away with the green on a blue. Like, I think if it wasn't for the mittens and the sentiment, you wouldn't have been able to do it. It just wouldn't flow, but it actually looks pretty good. I'm very happy with it. So definitely this is a card to be happy about. So thank you for joining me. Like I said, this is just to get us comfortable with the paper pads that we have. And I'm going to keep saying that through the time, so I know it's going to be very repetitive, but if anyone out there is like me where you buy a paper pad and you just fall in love with it, so you purchase it and then you take it home and you get discouraged mainly because you watch other people create cards and you just feel like, I can't do that. I've tried once and I failed and I don't feel good failing, so I don't want to do it. So I just want to show you how easy it is to just throw things together and as a base, right? It's not that hard because paper pads typically, especially this one, work really well together. And so don't be afraid. You will always get better with every failure that you do. Even though that sounds horrible and we don't like failure, it really does help you grow really fast. If you play it safe all the time, that's great. But you definitely grow a lot faster with trying outside your comfort level. So if you've been tagging along and making cards with me, that's awesome. I'd love to see your work. I will probably keep making a couple more cards going through this and just post these in segments. Thank you for joining me. I hope this has created some inspiration. And until the next time, take care of yourselves. Bye.